Hello, my name is Erica, and I'm one half of VOCE Collective, a collective dedicated to participatory photography, photo voice, and archive. Today, we're very happy to be partnering up with Photovoice Worldwide to bring you a series of videos where we share best practices and tips from other photo voice projects and participatory photography projects.
My name is Laura. I'm co-founder of Photovoice Worldwide, and this video series supports our mission of peer-to-peer continuing education and community.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Today we're here with Mala Matacin. She is professor of psychology at University of Hartford. And then we're here with two students, participants to her Photovoice project, Krysten Lane, she's a painting major, and Alex Cooke-Politikos, which is a physics major. All right, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for asking us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We're very excited. We really loved your project and we're looking forward to know more about it. So Mala, the first question is for you and is how did you get the idea of doing such a wide photo voice project and how did you decide to set it up?
Well, I had heard about Photovoice only really a few years ago. And when I was starting to teach this class, I knew I really wanted to use the methodology. So I took a couple of courses, one being the Photovoice Worldwide course with Laura Lorenz and Stephanie Lloyd, and then wanted to implement it in this course I'm currently teaching on imagery and activism. So how we use art to really change the world. And I thought, there's a variety of students in the class. So like Kirsten's painting, Alex's physics. So what sort of common theme would really bind us all together? And of course, this is prior to COVID hitting. So COVID hits and I'm like, this is really it, right? We're thrown into hybrid learning. Everybody has to be online. We have to learn, for example, Zoom and things we've never even learned before. So what is our experience with doing that? And that's how I came to decide why COVID and why doing it with this class.
Perfect. And what was something like, did you find any challenge in setting it up or, how was the process?
Well, thankfully for the amazing training that I got with Laura Lorenz and the Photovoice studios in London. I also went there to get training with them. I was actually able to pull a lot from my own experience with that training. So this was my very first time using it. And one of the things that came up in class after we did the training and the ethics around photo taking was for having people to go and take photos. And of course, and then there's the dialogue around those photos. And I think one of the surprising things that came out for me is that how invested people were in talking about their photos. And I wished I had actually done that earlier in the semester, because I think there was one night we actually came together with our first photo voice for our first photo dialogue. And literally we spent the entire class, which is nearly 2.5 hours, talking about 7 photos. And I thought, my goodness, how are we going to finish this?
Absolutely. People can talk for a very long time when they have a photo in front of them. So in terms of you guys participating, what was the reason behind when you saw it? What made you think, okay, I really want to do this?
Do you want to go first, Alex?
Sure. So I like photography. I enjoy photography as a hobby. And I also really enjoy studying and kind of being part of a lot of movements for social change. And so seeing a course on how exactly both can be used together and art and all of that was really interesting to me and kind of was a great way to expand my view from, outside of just the sciences.
What about you, Kirsten? What was your take on it?
Okay, so one thing I do remember was really thinking about the aspect of focusing on activism, and on top of that, when I applied, it was my first semester at UHart as a junior, and I didn't really know anyone, and I wanted to be involved on campus and try different things. So, not too many because I didn't have much time left on campus, but so I applied for this, also wanting to kind of do something that with sort of my writing ability. And when I did apply for it, when I did like get in and started participating, it was really nice to finally start like making some connections on campus and actually like feel connections with my classmates.
Yeah, Photovoice brings together. That's for sure. And this is another question for you, Alex and Kirsten. Like, when you were actually taking pictures, did you see anything changing from like week 1 to the final week of taking photos? What was your experience like on that?
I think the photos were, a lot of the photos I took originally weren't really well thought out. So I really wasn't totally sure, like week 1, week 2 maybe, what I was supposed to be taking a photo of and kind of what my photos were supposed to convey. And so as we had the class discussions that Dr. Matacin led, and as we kind of looked at other Photovoice projects, being able to kind of compare and then focus my images more in the later weeks really helped, because I think my strongest images were taken in the last couple of weeks of that process.
I think for me, it actually made a huge change for me, where the entire direction of my senior thesis as an art student kind of changed. I started off just focusing on figures, and I had some sort of like internal direction with that, but with Photovoice, I ended up taking a lot of photos that were very personal and kind of vulnerable, and that ended up changing my painting thesis to having the same sort of vulnerability and being kind of open and honest about my like internal feelings and emotions that were going on throughout the pandemic and throughout kind of the struggles that I was going through in school.
And yeah, I agree. It's really interesting how you can reflect on something with the photos. And even if you're talking about a different topic, like you're talking about your daily life with the pandemic or life on campus during the pandemic, then it always brings back to how you're feeling. And it's a really good way to check in with yourself somehow. So Mala, like when you started talking with the students, like what was their reaction like? How did you see their attitude changing throughout the weeks? What was in general your experience with this, with the students?
I have to say, I really love collaborative kinds of work and teaching. It's just who I am. And Photovoice just for me kicked this up to a whole new level. And, you know, I think what Kirsten talked about in terms of being vulnerable, I was really just very deeply touched with the amount of courage and the vulnerability with the captions. And I think as we started to talk about them, students were able to talk about how this pandemic has really hit them in ways that had to do with, you know, if you look at the themes of our study, mental health, how remote learning and how difficult that was, and how that, you know, related to their mental health, people losing jobs and not having enough money. I mean, it's the truth of probably you know, there's so many stories, you know, that are similar, and but students were also going through that same kind of thing and trying to learn, you know, at a time where they're worried about all these other things. Yeah, so it was a phenomenal experience for me.
That's really wonderful. And like I know that you did an exhibition that was online, so I'd like to know a little bit about that.
So normally, right, photo voice exhibits are done in person. We print the photos and the captions, and people have a conversation about them. Well, that wasn't going to happen because at that point, everybody was online. This was after our Thanksgiving break and everyone had to be online, and we knew it would be online. There are not any models to do photo voice exhibits online. I think there will be now. And so the students actually decided, well, let's do this with a website. And for me, what was really wonderful about the website is that, you know, in a photo voice exhibit, you only have so much wall space and you have to choose whose photos best represent a theme. And because we were able to do it online, we were actually able to put all of the photos. You know, we highlighted certain ones, but they're all there so that everyone's voices is included. And I have to just say, I'm really happy that Alex is here because, you know, he was really one of the students to set up that website. So I am fond of interdisciplinary learning and happy because that would never have happened because I am not a website designer. So I'm, you know, that collaborative kind of work is amazing.
And for you guys, how was it to choose these photos for the final exhibit? And what was the process like in that terms?
I think for me, kind of trying to figure out which photos had the most, meant the most to me. So kind of which ones made me, you know, gave me the, like, which ones by looking at the photo could convey what the caption wanted to convey. So because if with both of those, using both the photo and the caption together, make the photos very strong, but also being able to look at a photo by itself and kind of see what the, you know, photographer was trying to convey is a really strong tool for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And did people show up? So what was the reaction of people looking at your project?
It was kind of surreal. Like a lot of times when you do projects like this, I did a similar type of project where we had to put together or come up with a hypothetical program to tackle a social or an issue that we wanted to address. And me and my group had put so much work into it. And then when it came to the end, it was like, oh, well, now it's just all this work we put in, like, we feel like it could actually like change, like help in society, but it's just staying hypothetical. Whereas this, it is so much more real. And with the next phase after doing the project, actually taking everything we learned and trying to implement it, it's and like actually proposing and like sharing what we've learned with with people that actually have a voice over policies and actually have control over the things that we're talking about. And it was surreal because they were very receptive to it. They had great questions and follow-ups, and it was kind of amazing to get to talk to get direct feedback about how this would change the way that they're thinking about the policies that affect us as students.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Like, job done, really. And would you consider participating in other Photo Voice projects?
Yeah.
I see your faces. You're like, yeah, for sure. And Mala, are you thinking of doing another Photo Voice project?
Yeah, well, we're going to finish with this one. We actually are now doing some of the policy implications that we suggested last semester. We're going to be working with our counseling and psychological services That's our first step, to really try to implement bringing in student voices when anything really happens like this, like not just COVID, but how do we really bring that in to connect more with what's happening for mental health issues on campus. Yeah. So
Right.
yes, I'm not done with Photovoice.
Definitely. And for you, Alex and Kirsten, are you thinking of photographing? I know, Alex, you said you actually enjoy photography, for example, but are you thinking of kind of continuing photographing with a sort of Photovoice mindset, even though you're not participating in a Photovoice? I mean, like, has this triggered something onto your daily life now that you're not photographing anymore?
Definitely. I think regardless of if you're trying to do it for Photovoice, just having the thought process of what does this photo mean to me can be really important, and it just kind of improves your ability to be a photographer, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with that, and I think for me it kind of gave me this more mindfulness of like when I see a situation, or when I when I see a situation or I see an event happen, and I think about I'm more mindful about documentation, about having a document of these things happening can put that documentation can be in the right place at the right time and actually make change. And so it makes me more mindful about that. Yeah.
And this is why we all love Photovoice, I think. Definitely. So thank you very much to the three of you for being here today, for taking the time and for doing such a wonderful job with your Photovoice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Erica, for your work.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay.